This program is a paid commercial announcement from Jacob Media Partners and does not reflect the views of WPHT or its management. Today's program is pre-recorded.
We've never experienced a year like 2020. A deadly pandemic, political division, social unrest, natural disasters. Yet, we're still here, and now so are the holidays.
Hi, I'm John Doherty. May this holiday season bring you joy and peace. May 2021 be a better year for all of us. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.
Happy Holidays from IBEW Local 98.
Jacob Media Partners presents The Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion. Presented by the law offices of Adam Malamut and Associates. Powered by InjuredWorkers.com. And driven by Jaguar Land Rover Westchester. Now, live from the Malamut and Associate Law Studios, The Adam Malamut Show. Hosted by Adam Malamut.
Holiday edition of the Adam Malamut Show as we come to you on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. This is the Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspective, real opinion, and a great guest today. Adam, how are you, sir?
Krause, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, nice to be back creating content with you, Adam. I know you've had a crazy 6 weeks or so, but it's great to be back doing a great program and also doing one as our holiday edition.
Well, it's not just me. I know you've been busy as well. Let's talk about what you've been doing for a little bit. It's important for our listening audience to know about Krause's Coats. Give a quick rundown. Let's talk about something that's passionate for you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And listen, I'm sitting here waiting to put the show together today and received a text, hey, can I find another 100 coats? And I'm in what would be my 16th year. I've collected, reconditioned, and distributed over 200,000 plus coats. Service the neediest people in the Philadelphia region. Big shout out to John Doherty and IBEW Local 98 and the Kevin from Heaven Foundation and everybody that has made contributions. But it's scary right now, Adam. I normally don't deliver until January and February because I deliver coats on the coldest days and the coldest nights of the year. But man, the need is so great right now because of the pandemic and the craziness of 2020. And the collection activity has been soft. But we do have some big events coming up right after New Year's. So we'll see how it plays. I will be doing this, my friend, until I leave this world.
It was important for me to bring this up. You and I talk about things that we're doing all the time here at Malamut Associates. What you do is very inspiring and very selfless. And you know, what's happened this year between the pandemic, racial issues, systemic racism, the divided country politically, the overcoming of this malaise, being stuck in our new routine, it's important for us to continue to be kind to others and help others. And well before the pandemic, you've been the architect of Krause's Coats, the donor, the collector and donor to those in need. And I feel like that's a key component, a key ingredient of what we need to be doing now more than ever, not just because we're running into a cold temperature season, but I mean, we're running into changes in this country that 2, 3, 4 years ago, we never would have imagined. Yeah. But here we are today, and no matter what side of the political fence you sit on, you can't be happy with where our country is, from an economic, from a health, from a social perspective. And those things, those types of initiatives that you started, my hat's off. My Kango's off to you, my friend. My hat is off to you for leading by example and really teaching others the importance of paying it forward and taking care of those who have most difficulty taking care of themselves. So thank you for what you do.
No, I appreciate you saying that, and I'm just the messenger, man. I'm just doing it. Like I said, I'm going to continue to do it. My boys have already committed to carrying it on and carrying Krause's coats on. Again, long after I leave this world. So it's just a passion for us, and it's something we'll always do. Unfortunately, we'll always have to do it, but that's the reality of the world, Adam. You know that.
So, Krause, before we get started on the content on our show today, for those who may be interested in participating in Krause's Coats, where can they learn more about Krause's Coats?
Best place, just go to Krause's Coats Facebook page. Coats is spelled with a K, so it's Krause's Coats. You can go to the Facebook page. You can shoot me a message. You can message me there. I can make arrangements to pick up, or I can go to a different location. Whatever works for you. You tell me. And if somebody donates one coat, just one, because that's all they have. That's one more coat that will change a life they'll never know. So appreciate it, man. I appreciate you giving me the ability to talk about that. And if you're out there and you have coats, go to Krause's Coats for sure.
Well, that's a great segue into today's show. And first, I want to wish everybody happy season's greetings, no matter what you celebrate. This should be a season where we bring together our sense of family, our sense of community, our sense of unity, our sense of kindness, our sense of commitment to helping ourselves, helping others. This is the season. It should be year-round, but this is always a season that seems to be the reminder. People talk about their New Year's resolutions. I can tell you that my New Year's resolution is to have a much better 2021 than we have in 2020. But to the extent that I can control that, we've got to do better. And, where I think that we so often lose perspective is how things look through the eyes of others. So today's show, we have a very special guest. In fact, I've got to be careful how I say this because, as you know, Krause, my wife was on one of our other shows. So I want to say a equally special guest who is going to participate and give us an idea as to what this year has been through her lens. And we have my daughter, Ava, on the show. Welcome, Ava.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So
she's a pro, by the way, so we're going to have a good show.
And for our listening audience, we haven't scripted anything. We talked on the way in this morning for about 10 minutes, and in between phone calls that I had to just discuss some, rough ideas as to what we were going to talk about on the show. But it is such a privilege for me to have my wife on the show and now my daughter on the show. And my only concern, although I'd be very proud, is that Ava steals the show and I become her guest. But I'm okay with that. I can handle that.
Me too, brother. That's the way it's supposed to ultimately be, right?
That's exactly right. So we're going to talk today about the pandemic. We're going to talk about social issues. We're going to talk about political issues. We're going to talk about where we think we can make improvements from our individual household to the community. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about really what it's like being a 14-year-old. That's right, folks. She is 14. She is a freshman in high school. We're going to talk about what it's like for a 14-year-old growing up in 2020. So we're going to go to break in a minute. When we come back from break, we're going to dive right in. We're going to hear from Ava. And again, I'm very excited. This is a true honor for me to have Ava participate in the Adam Malamut Show. We'll be back in a minute.
The Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion.
And back here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, this is the Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspective, and real opinion today from a great guest, Adam, who you introduced so eloquently going into the break. As we were in the middle of the break, I was looking back over the number of guests that you've had and the lineup of people that have been part of the Adam Malamut Show. Big shoes to fill. Guarantee she'll fill the shoes.
Krause, I can't afford the shoes that she's going to fill here.
No, I heard it.
So, we went to break, and I was talking about some of the things that happened this year, and in our house, we believe in really communicating. So, for our listeners, I'm hoping to give you today a father-daughter conversation that hopefully you're opening up in your own households, because it's so important to get the perspective of the younger people. Don't make any mistake about it. They have their own thought processes. They have their own experiences. And for the betterment of their mental health and where the world's going, which is we're just taking care of it for them to come and lead. We really need to get their perspectives. So, Ava, it's been a crazy year, hasn't it?
100%.
So we started off in January. We were living normal lives and what we thought were, at that time, normal lives. And we heard about some people getting sick in China. But we didn't have any idea that we'd be where we are today.
Definitely not. I remember going to youth group, and we would talk about what we wanted for the world and how we would try and make our world a better place. And we were talking about praying for China, but it was so far away at the moment. And now, being where we are with the coronavirus, it's extremely concerning.
So let's talk about the coronavirus. We came into the office today wearing our masks. We came into the studio wearing our masks. We stopped at Starbucks on the way wearing our masks. How do you feel about wearing your mask?
It's a minor inconvenience if it's going to save lives. And honestly, it's one more accessory that we can add. I'm personally a fan of fashion in many different formats. So really, I think it's a accessory that we can design to fit our style and express ourselves while also saving lives in the process. So as much of an inconvenience as it might be, I don't really think that it's an issue.
So one of the things that Mommy and I admire so much is your positive outlook and your positive spin on things. And the fact that you look at the mask, which people complain about having to wear, and you're able to find that silver lining, that's a gift that I hope you never lose. That is so important, not just as a perspective and a life perspective thing or a coping mechanism, but it makes your day so much better. It makes your day so much easier when you look at things with that kind of optimism. Not everybody feels that way about masks, though. So, what's your message to people who refuse to wear a mask or, don't want to participate with the same type of hygiene as we preach?
Well, like we've discussed as a community and like our governor has said, it's really a necessity. We want to go out to restaurants, we want to party, we want to do these things, but if we're going to do these things, then we need to take these precautions now so we can later. And I think ultimately it's your decision how you're going to handle it, but I think that it's important that for your children, think about your children, your family members who are high risk. It's important that we come together as a country, no matter how divided we may be, that we come together on this one thing so we can get out of this with less trouble.
So you said something interesting. You said that we need to prepare now so we can do things later and be healthy later. And I forget the exact words that you used, but that's kind of along the lines of something else that we talk about. We talk about you work hard now so you don't have to work as hard later, right? It's like there's no substitution for preparation.
Yeah.
Right? So when you see people who aren't participating with their masks or aren't practicing social distancing, what's your internal feeling about that? Does it make you angry? Does it make you sad? Does it make you concerned? Do you have fear of the germ spreading? How do you feel?
It does make me a little angry, but at the same time, I know that I can't control what other people do, but I can preach what I perceive as to be right, and I can practice what I preach and do what needs to be done. But in this case, I really think wearing masks isn't negotiable, because you wearing a mask could save dozens of lives and dozens more by spreading. And I think that if it's going to save lives, I don't see it as an issue, because all it is a minor inconvenience. It's not taking away your ability to breathe. It's not limiting that. It's not really causing issues to your health, but it could save somebody else's.
So let's change gears for a second. So we're talking about health, and we're talking about all the measures that we have to take to stay healthy. What do you miss the most about pre-COVID to today?
Definitely hanging out with my friends, whether it's outside of clubs or it's through theater, which is a big passion of mine, or through sports. Definitely being together with friends and family. As someone with a large extended family and not getting to see everybody for the holidays and not being able to be with everybody and all hugged up on everybody, it has been a big change and I miss it a lot. But if we could get our stuff together and do what needs to be done, I think we can get back to that very soon. And I'm holding out hope for that.
And you should hold out hope, because, again, I think that as people realize the significance of the disease, hopefully people are taking it more seriously, and I believe that they are. With the vaccines on the horizon, it's going to give an opportunity for people to hopefully not have a false sense of security, but be reminded that they've got to be cautious, be careful, wash their hands, do all the things, stay socially distant. Hugging up, as you said, may take a little bit of a different look. It may be a little bit more of a fist bump or, an elbow. I don't know what you guys call it, chicken wing. But it may be different. But the whole idea is to help us get back to normal. So in terms of getting back to normal, I know one of the things that you like to do is you like to go out and you like to travel and be out with friends. What do you think about these small businesses and how we can help them, the people who have been hurt the most economically by the pandemic?
Well, as you said, our economy is in a bit of a crisis at the moment. But small businesses, I personally enjoy shopping with, because not only is it a very personal experience, but you could be helping someone save up for a house or a family or something big in their lives. You could be helping them towards that, or maybe even indirectly help them with their health and covering medical bills. And I think it's important to support small businesses. I like shopping through Etsy, for example, and other online websites that connect small businesses.
This is not a paid endorsement, by the way.
No, this is not. But I think it's very important to support the smaller businesses who have been hurt the most. And as online shopping becomes more prominent because nobody wants to go to a store, many people are shifting to the bigger online corporations when really we should also be helping out the smaller businesses who have been hurt the most. And that's a huge source of income for a lot of people. And I think that would also help bring our economic balance back.
I agree with you. You know, a lot of folks don't realize that a restaurant, and you've got an aunt that owns 2 of them, you know, those restaurants employ a lot of people. And for them to be able to not just support their families, the restaurant owners, but to support their restaurant families, the employees of the restaurant, there's a trickle-down effect. So then those folks have less money to spend at their local businesses. So the importance of shop local really is significant. Ava, we're going to go to break in a minute. When we come back, I want to start talking about some things that we can do, changes that we can make where on the smallest level to the biggest level to kind of change people's thought process and to help give them hope. How can we give hope? So let's think about that. We're going to go to break. We'll be back in a minute.
This is the Adam Malamut Show with our special guest. Ava Malamut is with us for the full hour here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Back in a moment. Hi, I'm Joe Kraus. May you enjoy the spirit of this holiday season, and may 2021 bring you a year of hope and peace. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.
Happy holidays from Jacob Media Partners.
And back here on the Adam Malamut Show, as we come to you on this holiday weekend, we do take a moment to wish everybody happy holidays. Be safe, be spirited, and believe in hope as we return back to the Adam Malamut Show. Adam, all yours, sir.
Ava, so this year you've done some amazing things, and I'm gonna be that proud, boasting dad for a minute. But you found ways to create your own outlets for hope. Let's talk about some of the things that you've done this year to overcome that malaise of being in the house, being physically separated, although technology's allowed you to be with your friends, but being physically separated from your friends. Let's talk about some of those things. So, what have you done?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I'm very into theater and the performing arts, so I've had the ability to write more songs and work more on my instruments. I'm currently learning the guitar, and I've also had the ability to not only write songs, but to write fiction as well. And I wrote my own novel, and I'm currently working on a second as well.
So your novel, without giving, people have to buy this thing. So let's not have a spoiler alert here. Your novel, what's the genre? Give a quick overview.
Well, the genre is a YA romance with a little bit of fantasy aspect, and it's great for fans of The Kissing Booth and To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And it's about a girl in a world where your necklaces with a heated substance determine your connection to your soulmate, and her moving through her senior year with new friendships and old friendships and just the whole era of being a teenager. And it's about her growth in that short period of time with a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of romance, of course.
All right. Well, I don't want you to give too much away because I had an opportunity to read the excerpts that you allowed me to read. I still haven't gotten full access to it. However, I'm expecting we're going to have this published within the next few weeks.
I hope so.
All right. So once the editing is done, it'll be available. And I'm sure you'll post a link on your social media.
Of course.
So if somebody wanted to visit you on Instagram, how would they find you?
They could find me at Ava Jordan Music. It's all lowercase, and there's a Y instead of an A in Jordan. So that's AVAJORDYNMUSIC. And there you can find also some of my singing and a link to all my social medias in my bio.
And you'll have your link tree there so they can find all of your social media that's accessible through there, right?
Right.
Okay. So you've written some songs, which I hear every morning, and I'm very proud. I hear you play the piano all the time.
I do.
You're teaching yourself the guitar. Mm-hmm. You are writing your second novel of the year.
Yep.
And you just made Krause and I the two most underachieving people in the studio.
I'm also teaching myself languages.
You are. And again, for our listening audience, the sky's the limit. You know, the way the pandemic has shaped up, it has restricted or changed our interaction with human beings, but it's not the end of life. It's just the beginning. It's how we look at this, and we are going to come out of this. But what we do now is going to depend on how we come out of this. So I'm asking Ava these questions because I want her to share through her lens, and I'm sure that you can hear in her excited 14-year-old voice the things that she's done and how proud she is. This is something that we as adults often lose track of. We lose track of self-care. Self-care extends beyond having your nails done or a beard trim or a haircut or buying some fancy clothes. It extends to our mental health. And part of our mental health, a huge component, is things that bring you satisfaction. So as you go through your life, you've got to be mindful of the things that bring you satisfaction, things that make you feel good about yourself. And whether it's reading a book or learning to play an instrument, which, by the way, I wouldn't dare. It's not in my wheelhouse. And Ava might disagree. I can dance pretty well, though.
Okay.
But I assume that's not.
Yeah, she was. I wanted to see what her reaction would be on that. I think I do, but whatever. She's entitled to her wrong opinion. So,
okay.
But these are all parts of self-care. So as we're talking about self-care and as we're talking about compensating, overcoming, adapting, I encourage you to encourage your young people to find things that they can do, find things that they can do that are outside of just merely FaceTiming with friends, or things that are not necessarily quite as productive. So Ava, when we talk about overcoming and adapting, at the beginning of the show, we were talking about being kind and paying it forward. How do you think we could do better as a society in paying it forward? And where do you think the needs are?
I think it all starts with just the simple things and just being courteous of others. Like, I know we all, especially in the year 2020, have had our own issues going on, but I think it's important that even though we might be suffering, to help out others as well. And it can start with just paying for the person behind you's coffee. And just simple things. And I think if we were more courteous of each other and a little more accepting of each other, I think that we would be much better functioning as a society.
So how do you become more accepting?
Well, for starters, just be kind and listen to other people and what's going on in their life, because I think once you listen to other people's perspective, you can understand what is going on and therefore accept what's going on. But if you just don't listen, if you don't take the time to understand, you can't accept it, and that's not good. But for example, the LGBTQ community, we're all about inclusivity and love is love, but some people have a hard time accepting that. But I think it's simple, and if you listen to people's perspectives and let them talk to you about it, you can understand and you can be better functioning in society.
So I agree with you 100%. And, I think that, excuse me as I'm clearing my throat, I think that one of the things that you had talked about, we need to be even more mindful of, which is that empathy, that thinking about others, not always placing ourselves as number one. It's important for us to take care of ourselves, but if we're in a conversation, if we're having a dialogue, if we're involved in a group, we want to know what other people's perspectives are and other people's considerations, concerns, and for us to be able to take those into consideration and evaluate our response based on other people's needs, it's a kinder way to function. It gives us an opportunity to be more inclusive, right? Mm-hmm. So, we talked about, you mentioned paying for somebody's coffee. How can we get the message across to adults? I want your 14-year-old advice. You help teach me, Mr. Krause, who's significantly older, but you help teach us and the listening audience, how can we do a better job of being kind and paying it forward?
I'm not saying that kids know everything, because nobody does. But one thing I do pride myself on is that at this age, we're very accepting of others. You wouldn't question your friend just because of their race or their nationality. And I think just being empathetic and not necessarily not seeing color, but seeing it, acknowledging it, appreciating it, and telling yourself and making sure everybody else knows that that's not an issue. I think just that overall air of being accepting of others regardless, I think adults could take a page out of a younger person's book.
So we're going to go to break in a minute. When we come back, I'd like you to figure out a way that we can convey the message of acceptance.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go to break in a minute. We're going to talk about Ava's lesson of acceptance. We're going to talk about one of the greatest issues that has been out there for a long time, but addressed more this year, systemic racism. And we're going to talk about how, as a country, we can move forward. This is the Adam Malamut Show. I have my special guest, my beautiful 14-year-old Ava Malamut, and we'll be back in a minute.
Real people, real perspectives, real opinion. Now back to Adam Malamut.
This is the Adam Malamut Show. I've got my special guest today, Ava Malamut, my 14-year-old daughter, and we're talking about real-life issues that we talk about around our dinner table. I wanted to share it with the listening audience. It's a great way for us to wrap up the year. Happy holidays to everyone. Happy holiday season. Best wishes for a happy and healthy new year. This year has brought so much loss, so much devastation, not just from a public health perspective, although when you think of loss, I think that that's the easiest go-to, is to identify that as, a public health issue. But we've lost our sense of unity in the country. We've lost our sense of decency. We've lost our sense of community. And, systemic racism is something that I've had a few shows on. We've talked at every show about the fact that this is something that we can't just talk about. We need to keep doing. Ava, what does systemic racism mean to you?
Systemic racism to me is how racism is embedded in different parts of our society, like and how it's violence that comes as a result, negatively impacts people and our communities and our sense of unity, like you said.
And beyond violence, it's oppression, right? It's not
Right.
It's not creating opportunities for people based on the color of their skin,
Right.
or their nationality. So we've talked about bringing people together. Let's talk about the division. So the way we've talked about it is, we agree that, and just because the show's an hour, and Ava and I could probably do this for 8 or 9 hours, especially when you stick her behind a microphone. But when we talk about systemic racism, and we've talked about this over dinners, we talk about the fact that our country as a whole needs to change, and it needs to change not just how we say we're going to treat people, but how we actually treat people. I had a conversation this morning with somebody who I respect tremendously. He's family to us, and we talked about environmental justice. And environmental justice stands for the proposition of a number of things, one of which is, taking landfills and other pollutants into communities that are really disregarded based on their socio and economic status. That, in my mind, is a form of systemic racism. Do you understand what that means with the environmental justice, Ava?
No.
So if in our community we decide that because of the economy of our community, the makeup of our community, we don't want a landfill, but who cares? Let's go dump the landfill in another community based on the fact that we care less about the people in that community, maybe because they don't look like us or they're not from where we're from. And it's a difficult, Ava, for the listening audience, is a multicultural, multiracial young lady who these issues are very real for her. With my wife, her mother's family hailing from the Cape Verde Islands off the west coast of Africa, off of Senegal, we're very mindful, despite the fact that Ava may not look it, she has deep multicultural, multiracial roots. So the environmental justice, that's kind of along the lines of protecting those communities. And it goes so much deeper than that. But when we talk about fixes and how we can do things and how we can make the world a better place, these all dovetail together. It's inner city health issues for women. There's more incidents of cervical cancer in inner cities where the African American female population's underserved. So it's not detected because they don't go for the same medical treatments that somebody who's in the suburbs who may have a better private health insurance receives. Social interaction, just that simple be kind that we talked about earlier, that paying it forward, it means so much. You can really set the tone of somebody's day just by a gesture as simple as paying for their coffee. And it doesn't need to be an expensive cup of coffee. It could be an inexpensive cup of coffee, or you can hold the door and exchange pleasantries. So as we talk about how can we really affect change, I think that there's so many different ways to do that. But Ava, I think that a lot of it really hinges on your generation reminding my generation and Mr. Krause's generation of what's important to you guys. Because unlike my parents' generation, I've got a much greater understanding as to what our needs are. And I believe that your generation has twice the understanding that we have. So with that being said, before we round out the show here, what advice do you have for the listening audience as to how we can make the world a better place?
Well, I think that really it's just about thinking before you speak, because racism is taught, so really it's about thinking, is what I'm about to say potentially offensive, and just taking that extra step to make sure that you're being kind and that the person you're talking to doesn't feel uncomfortable. And just taking that extra step, I think, would prevent a lot of unnecessary violence and awful things.
And it's not just the spoken word, right? It's the thought process. So as we round out this show, I want you to be mindful of the fact, and this is for our listening audience, for Ava and for Krause, and for me to remind myself as well, it's our thought process. How we get through this year, how we define ourselves this year and every year going forward starts in our heads. And if we treat people as equals, they'll feel like they're as equals. And they are equal. And that's where we misfire. We misfire because at some point somewhere there was a disconnect and we started treating people differently than we should have. That being said, it's never too late to change. So for my special guest, Ava Malamut, for myself, for Krause, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, extend our best wishes for a healthy and happy holiday season, healthy and happy new year. I'm Adam Malamut. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Adam Malamut Show, a Jacob Media production. If you're interested in learning more about the power of the radio hour, contact Joe Krause at 267-261-3428.
This program is a paid commercial announcement and does not reflect the views of WPHT or its management. Today's program has been pre-recorded.